All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give it one more minute as everyone's jumping on. We'll get started. All right, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our September membership meeting. Today we're thankful to be sponsored by South Jersey Gas. We're going to hear an update from Cape May County Comprehensive Bridge Plan from our freeholder Will Morey and also our county engineer Bob Church. First, again, I'd like to thank our sponsor South Jersey Gas. We just had a great board of directors meeting, and I'm going to talk about it later, but these sponsorships are really critical to our chamber and these programs that we're able to provide. So I'm going to introduce right now Christina Ghost, who's also a member of our board of directors. And Christina, can you let us know what's going on at South Jersey Gas?
Sure. Thank you so much, Doug. Good morning, and thank you again for having me. As Doug mentioned, my name is Christina. I'm with the commercial sales team at South Jersey Gas. My principal role there is to assist commercial businesses with the natural gas conversion process. My goal is to make converting to natural gas a seamless and simple task. I've been with South Jersey Gas for about 7 years. This by far has been my most exciting and fulfilling venture. Today, I just wanted to quickly provide you with an update on resources available to you when you're considering switching to natural gas. Currently, our organization is dedicated to safely serving as many customers in our 7-county territory as possible. We're devoting ourselves to making sure natural gas is an option for you and for your business. On average, a natural gas conversion can be completed in about 30 to 60 days, depending on permitting needed, and sometimes even less than that. The application process is very simple. We make it easy to get you the service you've been wanting. In many cases, there is no cost to you to run a commercial service line. I know what you're thinking, what about converting my equipment? South Jersey Gas is able to offer several financing programs to aid in the conversion process. These programs include Direct Install, New Jersey Smart Start, and Pay for Performance. We have a team dedicated to matching your business with the right program for you. Programs do tend to change, so make sure that you speak with one of our representatives about the programs that are currently available. As of today, you can potentially finance up to $130,000 at 0% interest for up to 10 years. In addition to this, the New Jersey Clean Energy Act offers an array of rebates based on energy efficient equipment. There's truly never been a better time. You may be thinking, what about my home? We have financing programs available for that conversion as well. I'd be happy to pair you with our residential representative, Eric Hammond, for details regarding that process. Our mission is to provide you with safe, reliable, and affordable natural gas. So certainly feel free to reach out to me so I can help get you started. Thank you.
Christina. Yeah, and if you could also introduce the speakers we have today.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Again, it is my pleasure today to introduce today's speakers for an update on Cape May County's Comprehensive Bridge Plan. With us today is Cape May County Freeholder Will Morey, whose responsibilities as freeholder include overseeing planning, economic development, education, and transportation infrastructure. Joining Freeholder Morey in the presentation is Bob Church, Principal Engineer for Cape May County. Also available after the presentation for comment will be Cape May County Commission Engineer Lou D'Onofrio and Leon Costello with Ford Scott and Associates. Welcome, Freeholder Morey and Mr. Church.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. This is, I think, my first virtual lunch program, and I did want to mention, Vicki, that my lunch has not shown up yet. Will it be served at some time shortly, or Nobody's knocking at my door or anything. Yeah. That would be cool.
Didn't get your order in time, Will. Sorry. We'll do better next time.
Oh, cool. So anyway, hey, I'm really pleased to be here to speak about this program. We're really excited about the plan, but I think it's important. I think that we set the context and the mood for this discussion. All right, so I'm going to ask Nina to aid me in doing so. We have a short little clip to get everybody in the mood for this conversation.
Well, it looks to me like there ain't no bridges still up.
What's this here?
It's a bridge.
Looks like some kind of railroad bridge, huh?
Beautiful.
Yeah. Even if we make that, we still got a river to cross later on. Right over there.
No, we'll let Cully worry about that. Right now, our problem is getting through German lines, right?
Right? How?
Well, it's a railroad bridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, then beautiful. We swing down onto the railroad tracks and right over the mother bridge.
And over the mother bridge. Sure. Suppose the bridge ain't there.
Oh, man. Don't hit me with them negative waves so early in the morning. Think that bridge will be there. And it'll be there. It's a mother beautiful bridge. And it's gonna be there. Okay?
Okay, Chief.
Okay. On up.
All right, everybody ready now? Cape May County, we have mother beautiful bridges and they're going to be there. That's our sort of our theme. So, you know, it was funny, Nancy Morrow, who heads up the Public Works Department, after she saw that video said, you know, we sort of looked like that during some of our meetings, I think, you know, as we were trying to work this plan through. And my only other thought is that, so that's from Kelly's Heroes, I believe. We looked for a movie that would be as old as one of our bridges, but we could only get to about 50 years. So, and I think our oldest bridge is coming up on 75 years or so. So, but at any rate, so the Comprehensive Bridge Replacement Improvement Plan is represents a tremendous amount of effort by a really great team at the county and the Bridge Commission. And I want to really emphasize that this is not an idea. This is a plan. There's a substantial amount of detail to it. Hopefully you might have had the opportunity to click on the link and page through it. But there are, you know, there are all the details required to advance a plan of this nature in a responsible and appropriate manner. The plan is anticipated to be approximately a 15-year duration. Of course, you know, there'll be work to do beyond that period of time, but this plan captures all the major bridges, both owned by the county and by the commission, and programs them for whether it be replacement or improvement over the next 15-year period. I think it's also important that, you know, a plan is great, but you've got to be able to not only implement the plan, but also be able to have the financial capability to move the plan forward. And the county's done a lot of work around this. And we've done that with the benefit and the vetting of our auditor, Leon Costello, for the county, who's done a tremendous job for the county for a number of years. Leon has, I think he mentioned 40 years experience, works through in a lot of municipalities, and specifically aids us in the development of capital plans. And we've vetted this plan and actually called Leon in to help us construct the financial plan that will enable this program to move forward. As you might have noticed, we've anticipate that we will receive up to 70% grant match financing for the plan. The plan is programmed to have as little as 50%, so the county can maybe I don't want to use the word easily, but it's well within the county's grasp and to fund up to 50% of this plan. In fact, the matter is the county actually started investing in this program about 3 years ago. So we literally started to create the recurring revenue source and are adding to that each year to enable this plan to move forward. So I mentioned Nancy Morrow as the department director. Bob Church, as has been introduced, is on the line. Bob and Lou D'Onofrio also on with us. Greg McGrath is a bridge engineer within the county, and all these folks really worked hard with the support of their staff to put this plan together. The plan was adopted by the freeholders just a few weeks ago, and it has been unanimously supported. And like anything else, I think in business or certainly in government, if you don't have a broad-based support by those that are responsible, then plans don't move forward. So I'm really thankful for the freeholders, work and engagement in this, and that's what it takes to move things forward. Also, a very good and close relationship with the Bridge Commission. The commissioners were engaged in this process with us and fully supportive. So I think we're speaking with as close to one voice as I think as practical at this point in time. So I think what I'll do at this point is ask Bob to walk us through sort of some of the general organization, so to speak, of the plan, and sort of brief us, give us an overview of the plan. And I think we're going to dive into a couple of projects that we see coming upon us very quickly. So Bob, you're up.
All right, thank you. As Will said, my name is Bob Church. I'm the county engineer. I just wanted to start first with a real general overview because I'm not sure if everyone had an opportunity to look at the plan. So basically, a bridge, be considered an official bridge, it's a span over 20 feet. And if it's a span over 20 feet and it carries a public road, then it's an official bridge, and it's inspected as part of the state's biannual inspection process. So all of our bridges are inspected every 2 years in accordance with the state mandate. The county has 23 bridges that are over 20 feet in length. The Bridge Commission has 5. The frequency of the inspection will depend upon whether the bridge is posted or not, or there's other issues with the bridge, such as whether it's scour critical or fracture critical. In those cases, the frequency increases. There's interim inspections that are done. We do have some bridges where those inspections take place as well. As the reports are generated, they basically tell us the condition of those bridges. So they provide us with recommendations as far as repairs. There's a listing of priority repairs, whether it's a priority 1 repair, priority 2 repair, an emergency repair, that is generated depending upon what they actually find. And then the county, in turn, reads those reports and acts appropriately to address those priority or emergency repairs. The priority 2 repairs are repairs that are less critical, and sometimes they can be done in-house. The priority 1 and the emergency repairs generally get done by outside sources, other contractors, and we employ consultants to assist us in the design of those repairs for the plans and things like that. The county, fortunately, is receiving Local Bridges Future Needs funding. Right now, we get about $3.3 million per year for the funding from the state. And the intent of that is to address these different priority repairs as they're identified in the bridge reports. The priority given to that funding is based upon whether your bridges are classified as structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. And both the county and the commission have 4 of those bridges. So as it stands in the state, our proportionate share of the funding is relatively high compared to other counties, which is good. The downside is the reason why we get more funding is because our bridges are classified in a more substandard condition. So that is a current revenue stream, and that revenue stream we anticipate continuing because until we address the whether the bridge is functionally obsolete, which has to do with the geometry of the bridge, whether it's too narrow or the approaches, or structural deficiency, which has to do with the load carrying capacity of the bridges. As long as those conditions are not addressed, we'll continue to get that level of funding. And a lot of our bridges are problematic because the only way to address them is to replace them. Some of the bridges were constructed and designed from previous load conditions that were much lighter load vehicles, so they just do not have the existing framing to support current load conditions, and therefore they continue to be posted. Just because a bridge is posted doesn't necessarily mean that it's distressed. It just means it can't carry what are considered to be the legal current loading conditions for trucks and trailers and things like that. So our bridge plan was developed to take into account and prioritize the different bridge assets that both the county and the commission has. And we looked at the structural ratings of those bridges, as well as the geometry of the bridges and the current condition, and looked to prioritize and separate out repair work from rehabilitation work to complete replacement of the bridges. And the idea was to sort of develop order in which we attempt to address these different projects, because they're very both labor intensive and money intensive. And you know, it's always best to have a plan rather than just sort of do a shotgun approach to things. So we try to do a systematic approach to deal with repairing those bridges that we could repair now and in the immediate future and extend our useful life, and address the rehabilitation of the bridges, which are more massive types of projects, and also to plan in the actual replacement of the bridges that simply cannot be rehabilitated or repaired and have a sustainable life. So that's what the plan basically is. It's a compilation of all the different repair schemes and different construction schemes necessary for the bridges, looking over about a 15-year window and beyond. Concurrent with that plan, we just didn't do the plan from an academic point of view. We were actually doing projects and repairs to our current infrastructure, which is part of that plan. It's just that was actually proceeding at the same time that the plan was being developed. So there's some things in the plan that where projects are identified that are actually either completed or in the process of being completed. And then there's other ones that are programmed in for further down the road in the plan. So an example of some of the work that, you know, is mentioned in the plan, but we're actually already undertaking, would be the Ingram's redecking project. That started in September of last year. It's a 2-year project. And it was referenced in the plan as one of our bridge assets that needed to be addressed. That's already being addressed and already funded. We anticipate that being completed by the spring of 2019 or 2021. I'm sorry. Mill Creek and Upper Thoroughfare, we've already addressed some of the substandard conditions at that point. Here's a photo of the Ingram's bridge repair. I'll talk about that in more detail. So we've also addressed things like the Mill Creek and Upper Thoroughfare. There were some substandard approaches that was part of what would be considered functionally obsolete. We did address that for safety reasons, with the idea that, you know, we know those bridges are going to be replaced in time, but we needed to actually extend the life of these bridges until such a time that we can replace them. So that was part of the process, is to not only look at, you know, the big picture as far as the future and replacing these structures, but to maintain what we have, so we're not placed in a position where a bridge goes down and we don't have a plan in place to, you know, replace it within a reasonable amount of time. So that's why there's also been ongoing work at the 96th Street Bridge. That's a project that we're anticipating within the next 5 years of replacing the Bashkill span. But we've undertaken some pretty extensive emergency work this summer to basically address the deterioration on that bridge, with the idea of making sure that it will last for another 5 years until the time it is replaced. Another project that's noted in the plan is the Hand Avenue Bridge replacement. Those plans are actually done now, and that's in a position where we can bid that project once funding becomes available, or if the continued deterioration of that bridge gets to a point where we need to do it. In that case, we could pull the trigger and actually take care of that, in real time. So that's what the plan is about. It's about, developing a system by which we, target those bridges that we know are problematic and need to be replaced, but at the same time, keeping an eye on what we actually have and what we can do to extend what we have so that everything sort of meshes into that 15-year time limit that we're setting for ourselves. Those time limits and the dates noted in that plan are, I'm not going to say, they're not set in stone, I guess is the thing. We envision, holding to those dates to the greatest extent possible, but because of permitting issues, funding issues, things like COVID, which no one had anticipated, we realize that there's going to be probably some ebb and flow in those dates. Certain projects, because of their importance or condition, are going to be pushed up, while other projects might be able to be pushed back a little bit. But the idea is to use that as a baseline so that we can continue and efficiently work and knock out these projects, and not have a situation where everything has to be done at one time. That's the purpose of the plan, is to systematically develop a priority setting so that we can reasonably address these things with the workforce that we have, consultants that we have, and available funding that we anticipate. So the other thing I wanted to just show you is some of the projects that we have done over the past couple of years. I had mentioned the first is the Ingram's deck rehabilitation. Okay, so this is a picture that was taken last fall, and in the foreground it's a hydro demolition machine. So basically, it looks like a little bobcat, and that just goes up and down the deck and removes the existing concrete deck surface to a specified depth. In some cases, the entire bridge deck was removed because the concrete was in such bad shape that it made more sense to remove it than to try to just remove it, do a partial removal. Next slide. So this is what it looks like after the hydro demolition process. You can see in the foreground is the new concrete deck, and in the background is, in this case, this was a full depth repair where they removed the entire existing concrete deck and replaced it with reinforcing steel. So they went along in sections and replaced that concrete deck on the eastbound side of the bridge as phase one. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And this is just another picture of them placing the concrete and what it looks like as you progress through the bridge. You can see that the entire deck now on the eastbound side is in new condition. Okay, go ahead. And this is just another view of it. So this is what it looked like in the spring after we finished the eastbound lane. You can see the condition of the westbound lane, how patched and potholed it is. The work on that's going to proceed this year. And when we're done, the entire deck will have been rehabilitated. It'll be diamond ground, so it's smooth, and then it'll have tinning cut into it for drainage. This particular deck, this is the first that there's been any major rehabilitation done on this bridge. I think the bridge was built in 1967. So, that was a pretty good span of time we got out of the life of that deck. And the hope is that we can get at least another 40 years out of this, asset, so that we don't have to think about doing any major rehabilitation or repair to this particular bridge. And then that opens up the opportunity to really focus on those other bridges that are more problematic. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the Townsend's Inlet Bridge. This is a picture of the original bridge. We replaced the first 7 spans. That project started in September of 2018 and finished up, I think, in July of 2018. This is a situation where this particular bridge, the piling and the substructure was in such bad shape that we were left with very few options than to replace those spans. It is what it is, and you have to deal with what you have. But This is the type of thing where we're trying to avoid being in that position again with the other bridges. We're trying to manage the replacement of these bridges so that we can do it more when we can program it in rather than less out of necessity. But anyway, this is a picture of the existing piers before they did the demolition to it. In the foreground, you can see, I think that's Pier 3, where they started to saw cut that pier as part of the demolition process. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And this is a picture taken a few months after that, where those piers were removed and the contractor was beginning to install the foundations for that bridge. Next slide. An aerial view of the bridge, and you can see that the first 7 spans are under construction at this point. The reinforcing steel and the deck has been poured on several of the spans. The last tie-in span is what still exists. Next photo. And this is a picture of basically the finished product before it's been striped. There's ongoing railing work. Next photo. And this is a picture of it right before it was open to traffic and striped. So this particular span now can carry all the legal loads. Unfortunately, the rest of the bridge structure cannot. This is one of the bridges that is noted in our plan to either do an inline replacement, in other words, carry this same replacement procedure across the entire bridge, or build it offline to the north, which would be a separate bridge structure while this remained in place. And once that structure was completed, this would be demolished. So the results of an upcoming study will determine which direction we want to go. Obviously, we've invested a lot of money on the first 7 spans, and we would like to, if possible, continue on that theme. But it'll really depend upon how it pencils out in the long term and the actual costs for the replacement and permitting and other complications we get into when that's studied. Okay, next slide. This is a photo of the ongoing work at the 96th Street Bridge. As I noted before, there was some emergency work that had to be done this summer because of the deterioration of that bridge. So this is a picture of them working on the Baskill span, which is the movable span. And this is being done, in recognition of the fact that we are going to replace this span. But again, we don't want to be in a position where we don't continue to maintain it and we're forced to actually have to close the structure. So it's money that is necessary. It's necessary for the safety of the public. And it makes good financial sense to invest this money at this point so that we don't have even more money to invest right before we're going to demolish the bridge. Next photo. And this is a picture of some of the repair work that was done. You can see in the foreground the angle irons and stiffeners that were done, and some other structural steel work and bolts that were replaced as a result of this emergency work. Next photo. This is a picture that was taken last night of that same floor beam after it's been rehabilitated, cleaned and primed, and it doesn't have its final painting on it, but it will. So basically what we've done in this case is we've gotten all the rust and prepped it, and we're going to prime and paint it so that it will not have the continued deterioration exposure to the elements. So we're going to continue to do that with the other floor beams and actually the 2 outside girders as part of this emergency work, with the idea that once this is done, we can hopefully walk away from this for some time until the point where we're going to replace the span. Next photo. This is just a profile view of it. You can see what existed before on floor beam 4 in the lower left-hand corner. Sorry about that, floor beam 3. In the lower left-hand corner, there were cracks on that floor beam that were noted in our inspection report, and that's where the red arrows point to. What was done initially was holes were drilled in the floor beam to arrest that crack so it wouldn't propagate through the rest of the member. But that was, obviously that's just a temporary fix to keep it from continuing, and that had to be addressed. So the emergency work that we did, part of that work was to cut out that whole section and replace that and sister it up with a beefed up steel section. So that's now been addressed. In the upper right-hand corner is a cover plate on the main bascule at the trun end. And as you can see where the red arrow is, there was bending and bowing of that plate. That was actually noticed by a routine inspection that we did on our bridge as an interim measure in addition to the normal state-sponsored inspection. So when Greg went out there, he noticed that there was distortion of that member. We checked the previous photos, didn't see that level of distortion, and thought, you know, that's something that's worth looking at. So we got a consultant down. That was last summer. And as a result of that, the bridge was closed for about a month to marine traffic until the consultant could determine if the affected members still could be lifted and lowered and not cause an issue of overstress. Fortunately, that was the case, but it was something that had to be addressed. So as part of this current emergency work, those cover plates were completely cut out and replaced, and supplemental plates were installed on both sides to actually beef up that section beyond what existed when it was originally designed. So that's the types of things that we've been doing on the existing structures to basically maintain them and keep them in a serviceable condition so that everything sort of works in with the timeline set in our bridge plan. The 96th Street Bridge is our priority bridge, noted in the bridge plan. On Tuesday, the freeholders are going to review a resolution to approve the preliminary design, or excuse me, for the county to go out for a design consultant to prepare plans for the preliminary and final design of the replacement of the movable portion of this bridge. It's probably a 3 to 4 year process and another year or so for construction. So we're probably looking at about a 5 to 6 year timeline from the point where we're at now till we'll have a new bascule span in. But that's one of the things that we're making a priority as part of this bridge plan, is this particular bridge. Next slide. And the other thing that is sort of the marquee item in the bridge plan is the Ocean Drive upgrades and bridge improvements, the local concept development study. This is for the eventual replacement and realignment of Ocean Drive down in Lower Township. That includes the Middle Thoroughfare Bridge, the Upper Thoroughfare Bridge, and the Mill Creek Bridge. The Mill Creek and the Upper Thoroughfare are the two smaller flat bridges. So through coordination of SJTPO and funding through the FHWA, or federal government, they came up with about $1.3 million available for Cape May County to embark on this concept development study. And it basically, about 10 years ago, there was a similar study done for the replacement of this bridge. It picked up on that original study. And we went through about a 12-month concept development process through our consultant. There was 9 different alternatives that were presented to the public and also to the regulatory agencies. And as a result, there was a preferred alternative that was selected by the county freeholders and also endorsed by the public. Next slide. And that would be alternative 3. So what you're seeing in this view is the realignment. The yellow is at grade road. So there's a raised elevated roadway, and that the realignment, sort of a serpentine shape, is where that bridge and road will now be once this is done. So the red is the actual bridge structure. So you'll have the red structure at the top of that photo is the Upper Thoroughfare Bridge, and the sort of figure 8 red structure is the Middle Thoroughfare Bridge. The Middle Thoroughfare Bridge, when it goes back under this concept, will be a fixed bridge, reinforced concrete deck and pre-stressed concrete ashtray girders. It'll have a navigational clear width of 80 feet and a underclearance of 80 feet. So any of the fishing fleet to the north will be able to pass through that opening without any issue. Now, when we do these concept development studies, it goes up, not only does the local authority approve it and come to an agreement, it has to get state review. So this actually went up to the state, and the idea at the time was it would follow the normal process, and the state would issue a review on this and a concurrence so that it would allow us to proceed into preliminary design. Unfortunately, when we went up to the state, they wanted us to do a value engineering on this project. So if you want us to go to the next slide. So basically, the state said, before we write off on this, we want to make sure that there's no other alignments that would be, more desirable from financial or environmental impacts. That was sort of a lengthy process. It took about 7 months for the DOT to actually convene on site. And what they did was they brought their subject matter experts down to the site, structural engineers, civil engineers, environmentalists, cultural resource people. And we walked the site for basically 2 days. We went through and they took a very detailed look at what we were proposing and what they sort of brainstormed as to what they could do to either improve it or change it. So they came up with actually 5 proposals, 4 of which we were able to discount out of hand because they didn't meet the project need, and the impacts on the area were just going to be too substantial. This particular alignment that they provided us, we took a look at it and we said, well, you know what, that it does impact the Bumblebee property, but it certainly shortens up the span of the bridge over open water. So the more we looked at it, the more we thought before we proceeded, it would be good to have our consultant take a more detailed look at this. First of all, to make sure that this wasn't something that we sort of had tunnel vision on and didn't look at and look beyond, and also to address the DOT and their needs to justify the fact that we were going with the other alternative. So as it turns out, we had our consultant do additional preliminary design on this particular value engineering concept. And, as we got into it more and more, this was sort of a schematic provided by the DOT. As we refined this and looked at the elevation changes and other factors, it became pretty clear that this concept would balloon into something well beyond what they were presenting. The actual red or elevated structure that they're showing was going to almost be twice as long because we weren't comfortable with the access to the north that was proposed onto private lands. There was a lot of other impacts. So what we had proposed was to use this direct alignment, but to have a slip ramp from the south side and go under the bridge, and therefore we wouldn't be impacting any of the fishing industry on the north side. However, in doing that, it did increase the structure length, and as it turns out, that actually this alternative actually costs more money to do when you look at the nuts and bolts of it. I think it was about $10 million more because of the additional structures and off ramp and things like that. So, it was a good process to go through. I think at this point, we're very confident that our PPA 3 is the best alternative from the county's perspective, and that the state will also concur with that. So as it stands now, this value report is in the hands of the DOT, and what they're doing now is going to basically give us consent on our PPA 3 so that we can proceed at that point with with preliminary design of this project. Next slide. Okay, that's it. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation. If there's any questions of me or any of the group, feel free to ask them.
So the one thing thank you, Bob. One item I'd just like to mention is that we are also really focused on the aesthetic of these improvements, and the county's open spaces program included a creative placemaking feature. And we've identified, common sort of themes of design that we would employ in different like parks and bicycle trailways and things like that. And we think there are aspects of the creative placemaking that may well be integrated into the bridge designs as well. So when we talk about structures of this nature, look, there's making them as pretty as possible, I think, is important. We live in a beautiful area. We're transversing these beautiful natural resources, and we'd like these bridges to be as sort of home in their setting as they can be. So there's additional attention we're going to be placing on that as well. So Vicki and team and Doug, I think that's our overview, and we're happy to address any questions that you might have. We are really enthusiastic about this plan. As I've mentioned to you, this is not an idea, this is a plan, and we're working the plan now. Stone Harbor, as Bob had mentioned, we're planning to release the next week. We believe that'll occur, and we're honing in on this middle thoroughfare next level of commitment as well.
Okay, thank you, Will and Bob. And I'd like to open it up for a couple of questions, and we'll use the raised hand feature as well as the chat. So if someone would like to raise the hand, they can go to the participants thing at the bottom of their screen and use the raised hand. But we do have a couple of questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and read those to you. The first one is from Sarah, and she's referring to the first drawing. And the question is, the first drawing shown is the plan you're going to go through with. So I'm not sure, Sarah, if you're referring to the thoroughfare bridge. Yes, she says the middle thoroughfare bridge. Will it still be a toll bridge?
We're not going to get away without paying tolls. So we're going to get away without having to open the bridge, but we still anticipate it to be a toll bridge. And it was the serpentine, as Bob described it, sort of the soft S is the final plan.
Okay. Thank you. And from Maria Kellett, she's asking, incorporating a biking and walking paths into the design is a great idea. So I think just a comment there, appreciating that aspect of the plans.
Yeah, the county is really focused on extending its trailways, its bike trailways program, throughout the county and interconnecting the county. And the open spaces program is investing pretty significantly in that, and certainly the bridges need to integrate in.
From Eric Conklin, are the freeholders planning on applying for a grant through NJDOT's local bridge fund program?
Well, I know that, I think, Bob, you had mentioned that is a program that we're connected with on a regular basis. We intend at this point to go well beyond that. We're going to be looking for funding at much higher levels for this bridge plan. And we're very much focused on the county's demonstration of, I'll suggest that of leadership and of having a plan and starting to work the plan and move it forward, we think is the kind of action that attracts financial support. So beyond the futures need, there are other state and federal funding facilities that we're going to be approaching. We've already spoken with the iBank group about financing for the bridges. But at the end of the day, once again, our target is to receive between 50 and 70% outside the county funding.
Thank you. So from Jack Victor, he's asking, are you actually using your original alternative to design the middle thoroughfare, rather than the state's suggested changes?
Let me ask Bob or Lou to address that.
Yes, so in other words, that serpentine PPA 3 is what we're proposing. Yes, we had to review their alternative so that we could discount it or accept it. In this case, it just didn't pencil out. So the PPA 3, which is the red serpentine alignment, is what we're proposing to go with.
Bob, did we adjust that at all, or was that pretty much what was submitted to the state?
No, that was what was submitted to the state. So we went through, and during the concept development process, there was a number of other alternatives. This alignment basically, I think it was just tweaked a little bit back in February early on in the process, but it's pretty much held the same as we went and presented it to the public.
All right, great.
And again, referring to the Middle Thoroughfare Bridge, what is the projected timeline and in terms of years? And will it cut off access to Cape May?
So I just want to say that, Bob, whatever you say, I'm not going to argue with Bob in the middle of this program on whatever time frame he gives, because Bob and I, you know, we razz each other a little bit about how long will this really take. But Bob, Lou, go ahead.
I think we're going to be in design for probably 2 to 3 years. At that point, we could probably start a phase construction. Realistically, I'm thinking 5 to 6 years by the time that's built. As far as cutting off traffic to Cape May, no, traffic will always be maintained. The bridge and the road is being built offline for that reason. So there's always going to be a connector. The Middle Thoroughfare Bridge is always going to be functional. What will happen during the construction of the bridge, during the late construction of the new bridge, it actually passes above the existing Middle Thoroughfare Bridge. So if you think about it, the new bridge is 80 feet tall, so it's significantly higher than the existing bridge. So as you come back and land into the Diamond Beach section, it's still well above elevation of the existing bridge. And you'll see on the plan that the two cross. So what happens is the new bridge passes above the existing bridge. During the time that they're setting the stringers and beams for the crossing, which we anticipate is going to be a 2 to 3 month time, there will be a temporary detour in place. But other than that, during the construction process, traffic will be maintained.
Okay, and I think this will be the last question that I see here. The question is from Eric is, what might you say to residents that are concerned about most of the funding coming from taxpayers if other funds cannot be obtained?
You know, the county is taking a very substantial position, making a very significant, or has the ability to make a significant financial commitment, but we're going to rely on state and federal government to do their part as well. So, you know, we will, you know, we'll do what we can do. We think we put a very significant foot forward with respect to that. I was reminded the other day that these bridges, the Ocean Drive bridges, Lou, was it 1935, somewhere in that range that they were built?
Yeah, 1939 to, they opened in 1940.
Okay. So, and they were principally federally sponsored bridges, right? So,
Yes.
so it, you know, a part of our pitch is, hey, thanks for the bridge, you know, 70 or 80 years ago, but we need a new one now, you know? And, you know, we think that this piece of federal infrastructure is well suited to be joined with you know, compatible federal funding. So the plan that we have could fund up to 50% of the high watermark in terms of what the range of cost is. And we have already started to budget, it's essentially approximately half a penny for 3 years ago. So from a taxpayer impact, we think we have that well in mind. We think by starting as we have, by having a comprehensive plan that spans over the 15-year period, that there'll be little impact on taxpayers. But at the end of the day, we're going to need state and federal support. We are not pushing the boat off the dock here to try to do this whole plan by ourselves. We shouldn't have to do that. We should, you know, I think stand firm on that. I don't anticipate that to be an issue. And I think for us, it's a matter of receiving as much additional funding beyond 50% as we can. You know, it's interesting, the Longport Bridge, I think, was expected to be a bridge that was paid for by the freeholders, by the county, I should say. The freeholders weren't chipping in, sorry, by county taxpayers. And as it turned out, I think a majority of that bridge ended up being paid by state or federal. So what I think, we're putting ourselves in a position to be, because we have a plan, because we're engaging in design, and because we're ready to implement a plan, we really put ourselves in a position to come in formation, so to speak, with funding sources much more readily than if we did not have a plan. And I think that the Longport Bridge is probably a decent example of that. Is that correct, Lou? I don't know if you remember back that far, but yeah.
Yeah, that opened in 2002, and that was received 90+% federal funding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation and all the information, and great information, and infrastructure that is very much needed in the county. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for all this funding and look forward to the work being done.
Yeah.
So, all right, back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you again, Will and Bob and team, for a great presentation. Quickly, a few chamber-related items to get through. John Kelly, I'm going to bring John on for our marketing membership report. We have a big event coming up next week with our Beach Expo. So, John, you there?
I am. Thank you, Doug. Good afternoon, everybody. I guess first on the agenda is we wanted to recognize a recent new member to the chamber, Tesla Payments. They're a merchant services company. So we welcome them on board. And I also see here a Business at the Beach Expo report, which is that event next week that you're referring to, next Wednesday, the 23rd, from 1 to 4 p.m. And I'm just going to try to share my screen here real quick to just give everybody a little background on the platform we're going to use, the virtual platform we're going to use for the expo. It's called Remo. You may have heard of it. It's kind of new to our area. And I just wanted to show you a few features and what to expect so that you can go ahead and register. I'll say that we really could use a few more people to register. We have some great exhibitors, 40 plus, some great sponsors that you can come out and support, and some really, really good educational seminars that I'll speak to in a minute. So when you go to register for the expo, you're going to come to a screen that looks like this, and I hope everyone can see that. This is the Remo landing page. Over here, sort of to the right, you'll see a green button now that says join the event. It says that now because I'm already registered. When you go to register for the first time, there'll be a green button that says save me a spot. So you click on that, you put in a little bit of information, and you're good. I will mention that you'll want to complete a little profile when you do that. Just a little information about yourself to enhance the networking at the expo. It's basically a virtual business card. So you have a tagline, you have some social media links, LinkedIn, Facebook, and there's a chat feature in there. So you're going to want to do that first and foremost. And you can see here up in my address bar here is the actual link to this registration page. But if you go to cape-may-county-chamber.com/events, you can get right on it from there. So that's what it'll look like. You're going to want to do that first. And then I just wanted to show you what the expo is going to look like next Wednesday. The actual expo floor, which you're looking at right now, is going to be open from 2 to 4, okay? From 1 to 2 is the first seminar that we'll talk about in a minute. The expo floor will be 2 to 4. And this is what it'll look like. You'll see, first and foremost, some of our great sponsors right here along the bottom that you can click on and interact with. But these are the expo tables as I go through. They'll be labeled with the business name. And I'll mention too that you can kind of move this around once you get on. So if you can't quite see everything, you can do that. Highly recommend using a laptop or a desktop. You'll pretty much need to have your mic and camera on to really take advantage of everything. You can do it on an iPhone, but it's a little clunky. There's a lot of scrolling, a lot of enlarging, and so forth. So I really recommend doing that. Right now, believe it or not, Remo doesn't support iPads. So iPads are out, and tablets. So you're going to want to get in front of your laptop and do it that way. So then what you'll do is you'll see my picture right here. You'll see each individual table's exhibitor there. You click once, and the little business card pops up, as I mentioned. LinkedIn, Facebook, a website link, so forth. Then, so if you were to click twice, you would open up into like a little mini Zoom meeting amongst the table, and you can talk kind of virtually face to face that way. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of that. And then also, I wanted to point out all the way over here on the left, you'll see it says floor. There are different floors to the expo. So we're on 2 right now. There'll be 1, and you can move around there'll be 3 floors. You can move around from floor to floor. We encourage you to do that. Up here at the top, there'll be some information on a little more information on how to use Remo and so forth. And over here will be our agenda for the day. So you're going to want to look for that. I mentioned those seminars, right? 2 killer digital marketing seminars next Wednesday. First, like I said, from 1 to about 1:45, and then a little time for questions, is digital marketing for revenue growth with Stephen Dollar. There's Stephen right there. Really, really sharp dude. I'm going to talk about how to, use Facebook video and other digital marketing assets to drive revenue, which of course is important to everybody. And then secondly, at 2:45, we'll toggle, attendees will be able to toggle in and out of the expo floor to this seminar. You can join if you like, you could stay on the expo floor if you like, or you can go back and forth. This one is marketing automation for lead gen that I actually am particularly interested in, on how to use some of these online tools to capture leads for your business. So lead generation. So Richard Falla is going to talk to us about that. You'll need to register for each one of these separately. Sorry for the extra step, but it's just kind of the way Remo works. So there's a register here, there's a register here, and you'll get your links for that. So that's pretty much the expo for next week. Like I said, we do need some more registrations certainly for the expo, but also for these speakers. These gentlemen are joining us from their busy schedule, and we want to make sure we have a great turnout. And right now, like I said, we really could use a few more people. So we hope you'll go to the chamber website, CapeMayCountyChamber.com/events/expo. We'll get you to the same spot, and then you can register for these events. Highly recommend it. And then maybe just pop in the expo for a little while and see who's there, do some networking, check out the exhibitors, and you never know who you might bump into. So I wanted to just go through that. So hopefully that was helpful. Doug, I also see on the agenda, the 2021 Jersey Cape Vacation Guide. The production of that is underway. We did have some internal discussions about what tourism promotion will look like next year, with all the uncertainties and economic hardships and the like, what it will look like. But we came to the conclusion that we're going to need all our tools. I think that tourism is never going to be more important than it's going to be next year. So we really need to have all our tools, which will include the printed guide, the website, and our extensive email list that we use to interact with the visitor from. And so those who want to reach the visitor next year in that all important comeback year, we hope you might take advantage of this opportunity. Some very, very affordable advertising. We offer free ad design and all the help you need. So we hope you'll jump on board with that, and really just can't thank everybody enough for all they do, and look forward to working with everybody the coming year, and seeing you next week at the expo. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, John. Great job, by the way. I mean, that's just an example of how the Chamber's really pivoted. Who would have thought the expo this year would be virtual, but I think we're going to have some face-to-face time. So great job to the Chamber team, and John especially, for putting that together. A lot of hard work there. Quickly, we're going to move to Mara. She's going to introduce our officers for the year, our nominating committee report.
Yes, I am. And just give me 1 second, please. Sorry. Okay, so thank you for your patience. So the membership was, everyone got the email to vote for our board of directors, and 90 ballots were returned. Thank you. And the following individuals were elected or newly elected to the board. We have the class of 2023, Nancy Cleaver, Jim Ridgway, Ron Solpizzi, Chris Mooney, Tom Paratsky. Class of 2022 will be Bill Davis, Tom Hutchinson, and Christina Gose. And the class of 2021 is Alicia Pearson, Stephanie Thomas, Tracy Martin, and myself. And also the officers for the and the executive committee are Doug Burke, first as chair. First vice chair is Amy Mahon. Second vice chair, Jim Ridgway. And secretary is Nancy Cleaver. And treasurer is Ron Solpizzi. And then additionally, we have 3 at-large seats, and joining and continuing on the executive committee are Tom Hutchinson, Denise Weand, and Eli Massoud in those seats.
Thank you, Mar. Great job. Next up, Amy is our Education Foundation report. We had a great golf tournament this week. Thank you, Amy, and the committee for a great job. We had a great turnout, great day. But there's another big event coming up. So is Amy, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hi, Doug. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we had a great tournament the other day. The weather cooperated and everyone had a really great time. So I'd like to thank everyone that, sponsored, participated, played, volunteered, and, it was a lot of work to have that successful tournament with everything going on. So thank you. Coming up on October 3rd, we are partnering with Kindle for their Oktoberfest. The Cape May County Chamber's Education Foundation will benefit from Oktoberfest, and that is from 12 to 6 that day. They're going to have different craft beverage vendors, different craft vendors as well, and we are looking for volunteers to assist us on that day. The volunteer time slots are 2 hours if you're able to help out, and I believe, Vicki, volunteers can email you, correct?
Yes.
If they're interested?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Next up, Nancy with our annual meeting report.
I think Nancy might have had to leave us a little early, so I can give that report, Doug. The annual meeting will be held virtually this year on October 23rd. And John just gave us a great overview of Remo, which will be the same platform we use for the annual meeting. And so we are looking for sponsors of the event. Appreciate anyone who's interested in sponsoring either the event or our awards that will be given out. You can contact me or Nancy Cleaver if you're interested in that. We will also be holding a silent auction that evening. You'll be able to bid on auction items in advance of the event or that evening. So if you would like to donate an auction item, please let us know. That would be really terrific. This is an event that helps support the chamber with non-dues revenue, so helps keep our membership dues down, and we're all interested in that. So appreciate your support with this, and while we're all looking forward to getting back to in-person events, we're very hopeful to have a hugely successful virtual annual meeting where we will have the induction of all those new board members and officers that Maura mentioned. So
Thanks, Vicki. And then if you could just go right to your president's report.
yes, thank you. The next webinar that we have coming up is on October the 8th. Rita Fulgenetti will be helping us to celebrate the 19th Amendment, which recognized the 100th anniversary in August. This seminar is entitled Your Vote is Our Voice, which celebrates women's right to vote. And we are looking for a sponsor of that event. So if anyone is interested in sponsoring this webinar on October the 8th, please let us know. We have a couple other webinars in the pipeline that are not on the calendar yet. And again, if you're interested in sponsoring any of those, we would love to talk to you about that, as well as sponsorship of our daily What a Day newsletter edition. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vicki. And yeah, to close out, sponsorship, obviously we've touched on a few times, so please get in touch with Vicki or John. A lot of these great programs are only possible with sponsorship. So with that, thank you again to our presenters today. Thank you to South Jersey Gas and Christina for sponsoring. Are there any general announcements from any chamber folks on the call right now?
And they can use the raised hand feature, and I'll unmute them if they're muted, or they can unmute themselves.
Alicia says, come to Oktoberfest. We will. Anybody else going once? Going twice? All right. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next week at our expo.